so I do actually have a story I can remember. And it's kind of funny, interesting, whatever. We were playing the playoffs one year and we were staying down in Philadelphia when they had the old Phantoms there. And so we checked into the hotel and I think they put us in room 911, right? So he's like, I'm not going to go in that room. So he's standing at the door, right? He won't step in the room. And I'm like, well, Whit, what's the big deal? Why don't you just, he said, I'm not coming in that room. And he goes, I just got in an argument with the lady downstairs at the front desk. He's like, can you go down and change it? I said, well, I'm not going to change it because I don't really care. And he's like, come on, please. And I'm like, okay, I'll go, whatever. And he's like, all right, I'll give you $20. I said, no, not enough. And I'm like, and he's like, I'll give you $40. I said, no. And then he's like, all right, $60. I said, no, I don't really care. And he's like, $100. I'm like, give me the keys. I'll go do it. So we changed rooms. So but he's a funny guy. He's I've known him for a long time and he's still a good friend. So.
Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Mike Russo and not Anthony LaPanza. Thankfully, we got somebody better. Anthony is off today because we just couldn't figure out the time zone changes. But really, really happy to be joined by longtime Wild assistant GM, probably one of the longest tenured people in Wild history. Has worked for essentially every GM, right? Chris Kelleher?
Yep.
Pretty nuts.
1 year with Doug Riseborough. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then obviously Chuck Fletcher, Paul Fenton, and now one of your closest friends in the world, Bill Guerin. Man, I can't even imagine. You're also your role is one of the assistant GMs, technically director of player personnel for USA Hockey. One big reason why this team has been compiled together because of your incredible longevity on the road the last couple of years, picking the players of this team with Billy and the entire staff. And I can't imagine what it was like in that suite last night during that game after throughout the game, but especially when Mika tied it up there going into OT.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Billy Zito after, and I said, you won 2 Stanley Cups, you lost in the Stanley Cup final. I'm like, how do you handle all that? Like the ups, the downs, the kind of the mood swings. You start thinking about, okay, we're getting on to the semifinals, and then, oh no, what if we lose in the quarterfinals? Like, it was just such an emotional game because we played well. I mean, Markstrom was really good in net. Sweden's a really good team. I thought it was a really even game, and it was just kind of one break one way or the other, and they tied it late, so you feel like they have some of the momentum, and then Quinn makes an incredible play, an incredible shot, and here we are off to the semis. So, and it happens, and now everybody's talking about Sweden. No, they finished 7th, the worst ever. Like, they were 3-0-1 or 3-0-1-1, whatever. But it's one shot. The matchup was kind of a strange quarterfinal matchup, and I think that's probably what they'll look back at and say we could have had a better matchup because if they didn't give up because of goal differential.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was like a semifinal matchup, really, is what it was. So
if people don't understand, essentially what happened was, in their last game, their second to last game going into the qualifying round, Jacob Markstrom in the last minute just dropped the puck. Slovakia scored, cut it to within 2, and that changed everything to the point that to win their group, Sam Hallam, the Sweden's coach, actually up 2 in the final minute, pulled his goalie because they knew they had to win by 3 to essentially avoid a qualifying round game and the United States. They don't score, and then that's why it felt like a loss. All of a sudden, Slovakia wins the group, and this should have been a semifinal matchup. Instead, now the United States plays Slovakia in the semis. But truly a really weird, kind of mechanism to create with the final standings. And to
Yeah.
your point, Chris, I mean, I was talking to Matthew Tkachuk after the game, and Matthew said that was as close to a playoff game as he's been part of. And we know this guy's won a couple Stanley Cups and went to the Stanley Cup final 3 years ago. But that was a game where 40 of the best players in the world created an atmosphere where there was just no room on the ice. And it was, but I think it's the type of game that could actually help you now in the semis
100%.
and the finals, because Canada has not faced a game like that, and nor has Slovakia.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I think it's you need to play those games. You need to go through it. The adversity, you could call it, but really just a tight game, like Matthew said. It's it was a great game. I mean, an inch here or there, it was like there was no room out there. Both goalies were really good. So many guys played well. It was an exciting game, but. Like you said, 40 of the best players in the world going head to head. And
I'm sure after the game last night, Chris, you guys, I'm sure, went out to decompress. I know that you sometimes see things on X. Did you see the picture of Billy in the suite? And has Billy seen that picture?
Yes, I saw it probably when I got back into bed. So it's funny, I sent it to my kids and they're like, Dad, it's like 3 a.m. over there. I said, yeah, we didn't get back from the game till, I don't know, close to 1. And, with your emotions and everything, you're not just going to go to bed. You just can't. So I did see it, and I thought it was a great picture.
And if people don't know what I'm talking about, Billy looked like he, was... it's funny because Billy likes to say, I don't get stressed during games because what can I do? He looked like, oh my God, I cannot believe it's coming down to this. But what Quinn Hughes reminded us all in overtime, Chris, is what you did not have in the Four Nations, and that was Quinn Hughes. There was so much made of the guys that didn't make this team. Yet Tage Thompson, I thought, was one of the best forwards on the ice yesterday. And then Quinn Hughes, we all take for granted that he was not in the Four Nations, and he is, one of the best offensive players in the world, let alone defensemen. And man, did he pick his spot in overtime last night.
Yeah. I think we don't make a big issue out of that he wasn't in the Four Nations just because you don't want to make excuses or whatever, but you can't replace what he does. Like, he makes plays that, and we've seen it in Minnesota now for a while, that nobody else really can make. Maybe one other guy in the league, in the world. And it just, I don't know how many minutes he had already played in overtime, but we get a whistle, and Chris Drury was saying last night how he stayed as far away from the bench as he could because he didn't want him to take him off. And I'm not sure they were going to anyways, but it was just kind of funny. But he makes something out of nothing so many times out there, and he's been really, really good this tournament. And obviously, huge goal last night.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to ask him after the game last night because he really did have a quick media availability, but it actually looked like there was one shift where Zach Werenski was out there, but then all of a sudden Quinn was back out there. And as to your point, not only did he stay away from the bench, but it looked to me before that, toward the tail end of that shift, he actually waved off the line change. So it's just so typical Quinn Hughes. Like, I've been joking all tournament, Chris, that his ice time in 22 minutes, there's no way that he's been satisfied with that. And of course, last night it gets closer to 30. He's just a special, special player. And I got a couple tweets that wanted me to ask you if it was a secret weapon and that you guys actually planned all these overtimes in Minnesota just to get Matt Boldy and Quinn Hughes ready for overtime. But it is funny that Matt Boldy is the one that sets up Quinn Hughes' goal.
Yeah. I said that actually to Heinze last night after. I said, well, it's a good thing that we played so many overtime games in Minnesota. This was nothing for them. But it is kind of funny. But it was, just an exciting finish. And it's so funny how one play, one goal, and like now Sweden's going home and they're just really disappointed. We're thrilled, excited to move on. And it was just such a close game, and the teams are so close. And, but that's the Olympics. That's what they wanted, and that's what they got. Like, just a great, great hockey game. You
mentioned going to bed at 3 a.m. yesterday. Mike Sullivan has talked about this a bunch throughout the tournament. Your next game will be your fifth 9:10 p.m. local time start. And I don't think that people realize that, that it's not just the time of the game, it's the lead up to the game, what you do all day. And then the fact that these players are super wired after playing a game. They don't just go to bed. And it's got to mess with the sleep schedule for all these guys throughout this tournament.
Yeah. And I think the good thing, like that you said and led off with, is that it will be our fifth one. So I think our guys are adjusted and used to it now. It is a late start, but, they'll get their sleep today, and I think they have a meeting later on. There won't be any ice. I don't think anybody will be going out there today. So they've gotten used to it and adjusted to it, and it's just a great group of guys and kids. I mean, some of them are kids, and they know what they're here for, and they're all business, and they're dialed in, and so they're doing what they need to do to make sure they're rested and ready to go.
Yeah, and I'm actually for the first time heading over to the Olympic Village in a couple hours. That's where the United States are doing their availability today, because of Chris's point that they're not going to be going on the ice. Auston Matthews, Matt Boldy, Jake Lancel, that line just continues to get better. I thought they really had a subpar game one of the prelims, but Auston in particular, Chris, has just gotten better with every single game. He's all around the puck. And he's answered probably a lot of the questions, as well as I do, that in Toronto, the scrutiny that he's got to deal with. And then he comes here and he's got to deal with the same thing. And as the captain of this team, it just feels like that line has just gotten better and better as every game's gone along. Last night they were tightly checked. But throughout the games 2 and 3 of the prelims, I thought they were awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. I think the first game they were had a slow start, and then, 3 world-class players with the hockey sense and the smarts and the skill is off the charts. And they've just continued to get better and better. And I think they'll, in the semis, I think they'll be great. Auston I think people, who don't really watch hockey as much, but just kind of follow it, don't realize how good of a two-way player that Auston Matthews is. And I think for us, that's what he's been. He's really good down low in the defensive zone. He can make plays in the offensive zone. He can shoot. He's good on the power play. And so I just think he's continuing to get better and better. And I think he's having a blast with this group. He's got other guys on the team who maybe get a little more of the media hype than him, and I think he enjoys that, and it's a great group of guys, and I think he's a really good leader in that way. He's just himself. He plays, he plays the way he plays, and I think he's just a really good two-way player, and all around just a really, really complete hockey player. And I think he's been getting better and better.
Yeah, how cool do you think this experience is, Chris, for Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes, wanting to play together after sort of being robbed of that last year at the Four Nations. But then Jack is in his own right, playing so much better than I thought that he played at the Four Nations. He's producing, but he's so noticeable every shift, where I just didn't see that at the Four Nations.
No, and I think, Jack would probably admit to that. And he's playing great. He looks like the Jack Hughes you see with the Devils. I don't know, for whatever reason last year at the Four Nations, it didn't go great for him, but we're sure happy he's playing the way he is now. He's making a difference. He's making an impact. Every time he has the puck, he's dangerous, and that's what he is. That's, he's obviously high-end skill and offensive guy, and he's been really good. And I think for them to play together in something like this is super special, and it has to be. I say same with the Tkachuks. Like, imagine growing up and thinking you'll play with your brother at the Olympics on the biggest stage, and so it has to be super special. And but then with their parents here and all that, I think it's it's exciting for them.
Yeah, and if you're an Athletic subscriber and you haven't read it yet, I've done a bunch of Tkachuk stories. One on looking back when they were here in 2006 in Torino as 8 and 6-year-old boys following their dad around, and then I also did a story on when Quinn Hughes and Brady were actually billeted by Keith for 2 years at the National Team Development Program. That was a fun story as well. So hopefully everybody reads that. Chris, how good has Connor Hellebuck been? Tracking the puck great, battling, looking like the regular season Connor Hellebuck that we know. Really felt bad for him on that Zibanejad shot. I thought he got a great push over there, and the puck just found that perfect area between his skate and the post to get in to tie the game yesterday. But he's been outstanding.
Yeah, I thought he was really good last night, and then it was unfortunate that the goal and. He was there. He was reading the puck, and it just but I think he's been aggressive. He's been seeing the puck great, and he's been really good. I mean, I don't know what else to say. He's been really good, and he's been that's why there's a reason why he won the Vezina last year, and he's just he looked really dialed in last night.
Yep. Chris, how cool has this been for you guys? I mean, we know how close you and Billy are. John and you, Chris Drury and you went to college together at BU. Chris was your roommate. Then you got a staff that includes Tom Fitzgerald, John Van Beesbrook, Stan Bowman, Bill Zito, as you mentioned, obviously your brother, Pat Kelleher. I mean, I can't imagine that when you're the management crew at a tournament like this, that there's a lot to do, really. I mean, your job essentially was to build the team before and then come here and watch. So has it been, just from a camaraderie standpoint, really neat to spend so much time with a bunch of your best friends and your brother?
Yeah. I mean, it's been incredible. I feel like we have an incredible group of guys. We all get along. Everybody has a different approach to things and different way they do things. And for me, it's great to learn from them and each of them and find out how they do things and, why do they do this and just different. But I think as far as camaraderie and friendship and the way we get along, it's been great. I mean, and you're right, we don't have a lot to do, and it's different with the Olympics than, say, Four Nations. Four Nations, the players in the hotel, they have practice, so we go to practice and kind of hang out and see them. And I think the other day I was saying to somebody, maybe Drury, when we went to practice, you get to see, we haven't seen the players a whole lot because they're in the village. So when you go watch practice on the second off day we had, and it was like, oh, you feel a lot better because you see how good they are out there. You're like, all right, here's why we're confident with this group. But as far as the management and the staff, it's been incredible. I mean, then everybody's families are around, and so away from the rink and away from the work part of it's been so much fun, dinners and hanging out and getting to know their families and all that, and it's been a special time so far.
Tell us some Chris Drury stories. Obviously one of the, it's funny, back in the early 2000s, I believe it was, I co-wrote a SI for Kids book, and one of the people I profiled in that book was Chris Drury. Obviously fascinating childhood as the Little League World Series. Everybody knows that. One of the great Colorado Avalanche players, goes to New York, has a great career, but you knew him back in the day, went to BU together, roomed together, and now he's the Rangers GM. But as the Rangers GM, you can't do a lot of press. So let's put it this way, he's not as accessible as Bill Guerin. So tell us what it's like to know the real Chris Drury.
Well, I'm not going to get too. He's a great guy. He would do anything for anybody. He's just a really, really good person, family guy. He's a funny guy. Like a lot of these guys didn't know how funny John Hines was last year before the Four Nations. Because you look at him on the bench and there's Hines, no emotion, right? So Chris is kind of a little bit of the same as. When you really get to know him, he's a great person. He's really funny, and he just enjoys being around the guys as much as anybody else. And it's been really special for me my college roommate, and here we are in Milan at the Olympics. And but yeah, he's a great guy, and I know he doesn't. He's definitely he's a different personality than Billy, but I mean, not everybody has Billy's personality. So there can't be every. But he's great. He's great. I think he's he's one of my best friends, and just a really, really good person.
Last thing, same thing on before we get on to some other subjects. John Hines. I mean, you mentioned, I don't think Wild fans really know the real John Hines. I always joke. So I've had a couple real fun days with John Hines in Las Vegas. So last year, I actually watched the Frozen Four final with him for a sit down interview that I did with him toward the end of the season. And so we sat there for a couple hours. I got to watch BU with him. Then I did the on the record Q&A, put the tape recorder on, and he became John Hines. Like all of a sudden the second the recorder came on, he was a very different personality. And then same thing this year, we were in Vegas. I did a sit down with him, but for the first couple hours, we watched the Patriots game together. Had a blast with him. Yeah. And then the second I turned the recorder on, he became John Hines. So what you see is not exactly, behind that camera or behind that bench is not the real John Hines, right?
I think that's the coach. That's Coach Hines.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great. I think like I always I give him a little bit of a hard time just joking around, but I'm like, you could show some. He goes, I know, but then the players see that, they get up if I'm up, they get down if I'm down. So he said, I got to be very in it, and I think it's great. I do, but. I mean, off the ice and away from the rink, he's one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah.
He's incredible, like imitations of guys or people, and he's hilarious. He's great. I've known him. He was a year ahead of me in college, and I stayed with him on my my visit to BU, and so I've known him a long time. So but I think he's a great coach, and I see, I give him a hard time, but I think I like that he's kind of. Very, very, very neutral, very, very calm on the bench. And, I think that's a big part of, why he does a good job.
Yeah. What makes Billy so special from your standpoint? I mean, he's one of the boldest GMs I've ever covered. He definitely has his convictions. Like if he believes in something, he just, he believes in it. What's it like working behind the scenes with Billy?
It's great. I mean, it's great. And you're right. He if he believes in something, he believes in it. And he's not afraid to be bold. He likes to get opinions and ideas and thoughts. And, he's very collaborative. But he lets you do your job, right? Like, he knows he's the GM. At the end of the day, he makes the final decision, and he's the one who's going to, be praised or, get the heat for it. So, but he lets everybody do the job. And I think that's why he's a great leader. He's got a presence. He's been tremendous to work for and with. He doesn't like, just because he's the GM, he's the smartest or he knows the most or anything like that. And that's, I think, a big part of it. I think why he's so good at his job is he kind of lets the people who do their job and, do it the way he wants. But he's not, he's not pretending that he knows every player in the league like I'm supposed to.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a big part of why he's just a really, really good GM and a great guy to work for and work with.
Speaking of your job, I mean, your trade is scouting. There's no doubt about that. Besides, once upon a time being a really, really good hockey player that played at BU. But Chris, you've watched Slovakia a ton throughout this tournament now. They have had a really, really special tournament. I think that during the semifinal that the United States players are going to realize that the crowd that they're going to play in front of is going to be a very different crowd than they played in front of yet, because these Slovak fans are coming there for a party. When you watch Slovakia, besides the obvious of guys like Slavkovsky and being as good as he's been and players like that, what has made them so good and what will be so formidable to try to beat them to get to where you want to get to, which is that gold medal game?
Yeah, I think they're on they're on one of those runs where they just believe they're going to win and they believe they're going to play well, and they have good players. There's not a lot that maybe the North American fans know of or some of the names, but they're big, they can skate, and they work hard, and they're hard to play against. Like those even the teams in the preliminary for us, Denmark was big, Latvia's big, Germany's big. They're big and they're men and they play hard, and it's not easy to play against them. And then Slovakia, has some skill, right? It was Slavkovsky and so and then Levi's playing well in net. So it's going to be a tough game. Like they're in the semifinals for a reason. They're not just. It's not like they came out of nowhere. I mean, Slovakia's had some good teams and good players, and they have another one this year. So it's going to be a tough matchup because it's Sweden. You kind of know like, hey, they got. Like we knew going into last night, like this is going to be a really tough game because of the names and the players on the other side. And Slovakia, I think, is the same in a different way because they're in the semifinals. This is the semifinals. They're there for a reason, and they got here for a reason. So I think our guys will be ready, and hopefully they come out hard and we play well. But yeah, they're going to be a hard opponent. There's no doubt about it.
Chris, you mentioned Halavai, speaking of big, because he is a big goalie. I didn't realize it until, the way that we interview people are in the mix zones. And so they're wearing their skates still. Like yesterday, I'm interviewing Tage Thompson, Chris, and I've never felt so, even like when I interviewed Boldy, but I've never felt so tiny. Not tiny from a wide standpoint, by the way. I mean, from a height standpoint. It's truly like crazy to me how big Halavai is in net. And he just, to me, at least statistically, looks like a very different goalie than we've seen this year in Iowa. What has made him so much better in this tournament compared to what you're used to seeing right now for an Iowa team where his numbers have not been robust?
Yeah, I think sometimes we've talked about it with our group is like sometimes these guys put on their national jerseys and it's just different. It's just different for them, But he's played really well here, and he's had a lot of ups and downs in Iowa. The team hasn't been great either, but I think he hasn't. And he probably would admittedly say that he hasn't been great there, but he's been good here. So we gotta worry about that tomorrow. And but yeah, it's kind of funny. I can't explain it or say why or. He's got a 9. What's his save percentage here? It's like 930. Yeah. So, he's obviously he's feeling good right now, and he's locked in, and so we got to find a way to beat him tomorrow, and get some traffic in front of him. He's a big kid. He is a big boy, and you've seen him play good games. So. In Iowa too. But right now, obviously, he's seeing it well, and we got to try to get in front of that and get some traffic in front of him.
I did jokingly ask him yesterday, is there a little worry about maybe playing the team in the semifinal that is your general manager? Like, you don't want to piss him off. So there you go. He just smiled. Can I ask you, candidly, like, what do you think?
I think here, hey, everybody's, you're playing for your country, and, there's no hard feelings. I don't think that in that way. It was even funny last night when Eki kind of got hurt there or stayed down for a little bit. You're kind of like, oh no,
Yeah.
And then he came back the next shift, which was great.
Yeah.
But you never want to see anybody get hurt or anything. But I don't think anybody, as far as the hard feelings or anything like that.
You know what I love about Eki? Speaking of Eki, so this guy is such a hockey player, Chris, as you know. I don't like playing against him. I'll tell you that. Yeah, so he gets crushed by Charlie McAvoy yesterday. Didn't see him coming. Yeah. And then Eric Sinek, the rest of the game, and you know how much I love McAvoy. I've been doing a diary with him throughout the entire Olympics. I'm doing another one with him today at the Olympic Village. The rest of the game, Eric Sinek, every time he saw McAvoy, he went freaking right at him. And I just think that that is what makes him so special, Yep.
I think he was, like I said, I do not like to play against Eki. I'm glad he's on our Minnesota team, obviously. I think because he's a hell of a player, and he's so hard to play against. He's always in guys' faces. He's always in the hard areas. He's just like, he's always on you. He's always hitting you. He's a hell of a player. But that's him. You're right. Like Charlie had a great hit on him. But Eki's not going to back down. He's going to go right after him and go at him and be harder on, that guy doesn't care who it is. And you're right. That's what I think makes him so great.
Two more questions before we just turn our attention a little bit to the Wild, and then I'll let you enjoy your day here in Milan, Chris. But Halavai, the one thing that was very clear when I talked to him after the game yesterday about his future is that he thinks he's somebody that can play in the National Hockey League. And he had said it to me, admitted to me that, it's hard to see that future in Minnesota when you have Gus signed to 5 more years, and obviously we know how good Wally is. So what do you think is the future for Halavai now? Because he is a Group 2 free agent, which means that you technically control his rights if you tender him a qualifying offer. But, it does sound like he's somebody that is going to go into this offseason and maybe try to play hardball to get a new opportunity. Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think, obviously we haven't discussed it too much yet, but I think obviously it's something after this Olympics and the way he's played, we're going to have to, kind of dig in here more and watch him and see how he finishes out the season and make a decision on that. And I can see his side of it, that we have 2 guys who, Gus is signed long term and Wally's Wally, right? He's a young elite goaltender. So, obviously you don't want to deny a kid a chance or more of a chance, I guess you could say. So we'll see kind of how he finishes up the year and see where that goes. But obviously we'll be talking to his agent and kind of see what their thoughts are, because they may not want to, if they don't want to come back and don't want to be there, then you got to make a decision. Do you want a kid that doesn't want to be there? No. But if he still feels like, hey, we gave him his chance in North America and he still feels like he can get there and wants to do it with us, then that's where you make a decision. So we'll just kind of see where that goes.
Makes sense. Last question on the Olympics, then I just want to turn our attention to the trade deadline a little bit and a couple other things. Is Gustafsson, obviously a tough Olympics for him. He was essentially lost his job, came in as the number 1, then wound up being scratched the last couple games. As far as you know, is he healthy? And 2, how much do you feel for him that just, in a short tournament, a couple tough games could put you in that position? And do you worry about him once he gets back to Minnesota, that this could have a lasting effect?
As far as we know, yes, he's healthy. And I said to Billy last night, I'm like, well, maybe we don't have to know, but the doctors have to know within the teams. Like if so our doctor would have to know, after last night's game, they know. So yeah, as far as we know, he's healthy.
Okay.
And tough, obviously, tournament for him, getting the starting job. And then I thought it was kind of strange that they didn't even back him up last night.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their decision was or why they did it, but I don't, I think Gus, he's a world-class goalie, and, I'm sure he'll be excited to get back to Minnesota and get rolling again with our team. So, it's not, the tournament doesn't always go great for everybody, right? Like, there's guys that, I'm sure Ecky's not happy with his tournament, even though he played well, but they didn't win. So, JoJo sat out last night. But I don't worry about them coming back. They're all professionals. They all know we have a pretty good team and have a chance to do something here. So I think they'll be locked in and dialed in when they get back.
Yeah, I agree that, and I will say Sweden made some tough, weird. They at the Four Nations and here they just make some weird decisions. Like I thought, I thought it was strange last night. Chris said it was almost like a disciplinary thing. Like how does Jesper Bratt not play one shift in 2 periods, and then all of a sudden in the third he's playing like every other shift? It was bizarre.
I know, and and I'm not going to question they have the reasons and why they did it, and I don't know what goes on inside their management room or whatever. So, but I just thought, like in the third period, I'm like, God, I hope Jesper Bratt doesn't get the puck. Like he's so dangerous. So, to me, I was, when he started playing, he's dangerous.
I jokingly said to one of the writers next to me, I'm like, did Bratt sneak out of the village or something? Like, this is crazy.
I don't know.
I've never seen where a player doesn't play a shift for 2 periods in a row, and then all of a sudden the third, they unlock them. It's crazy.
Yeah. I know. So I don't know what happened, but but he's I think he's I think he's a really, really good player,
Yeah.
and dangerous and hard to play against.
Yeah. Let's just quickly, if you don't mind, talk about the Wild, Chris. First of all, Quinn Hughes. Tell me, I had Matt Sells on the Fan back in December, and he really talked a lot about how the Quinn Hughes trade came together. When did you get involved? I mean, obviously, I have all the respect in the world for you, but I don't think Billy Guerin had to call you and say, "Hey, by the way, is this Quinn Hughes guy good? Should we trade for him?"
No.
But when did you first find out that this was an option, and what was that week where Billy is essentially calling you and giving you updates and telling you, by the way, we're probably going to trade this and this and this and this for him. Tell me about it from your perspective.
Yeah, it was kind of the day that he made the offer is kind of how it all started. I mean, it was just like, yeah, they're going to, Quinn Hughes. I'm like, is he really available, or they just, is that, just they're saying it. And he said, no, they're going to move him. And he's like, well, what do you think of this? And I'm like, yep, absolutely, I'd do it. And then it just kind of went from there, then it was kind of a waiting game. And were we still in it? Were we not? Some days you didn't really hear much. And other times, it was like, yeah, we're still in the mix. And I do think it was, a big reason we gave up 3 really good young players, was a big part of it, the biggest probably. But I think also that Billy kind of just was aggressive right away and said, here's what I want to offer you. And, and again, Quinn Hughes is a world-class player and is not available very often, those type of players. And you can't, I think, you can't go in there and say, hey, well, what are you looking for him? Or what do you like from our end? I think Billy went in and said, hey, we'll give you 3 good pieces. And I think that's kind of how it worked out, obviously. But yeah, it was I would say it's an exciting week and time because, anytime you have a chance to get a player like that, but to get it over the finish line, that was really, really exciting. And the best part is nobody ever thought that we were being involved. Yeah. Nobody mentioned us. So I thought that was, it was obviously a really exciting time. And, it was a fun week.
Yeah. I'll take that as a shot at me.
No. I'm not gonna. No. I just
clue this was coming.
Well, no, but I mean, it's one of those where it's like, hey, this is if we can stay under the radar on this thing.
Yeah.
Because I was at the Hockey Hall of Fame or the USA Hockey Hall of Fame was in Minnesota that week, right?
Yeah,
I believe, and then. So I was talking to a few guys, and you're like, oh, where do you think he's, Detroit, Washington? And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, maybe. I'm like, I wanted to be like, what about the Minnesota Wild? Why can't we do this?
Yeah.
So I think it was great. I think we kind of shocked the hockey world because, again, we weren't, which was a big part of it. I think if you, maybe then teams say, oh, if Minnesota can, what could they? Oh, maybe they're giving this. Well, maybe we should. So I just thought it worked out. It was great that the way it worked out, obviously.
Have you, in your wildest imagination, you guys were a really good team before this, right? But did you ever think that he could, in my eyes, transform you guys to such a degree? You went from being, a team that did struggle scoring to now not struggle scoring. You went from having, the 29th ranked blue line in terms of points to now the first. And you still have the second most points in the NHL going into the break. Did you think that he could transform you so much offensively?
No, I didn't think maybe one player could do that, but he can. He is, I will say, I've watched him for years and seen Vancouver a lot and seen him a lot and stuff. But when he's on your own team, it's just different. I just watching him is because you want him to have the puck. When you play against him, you're like, oh, please do not give him the puck. and now he has it so much. And he makes so many things happen. He makes things happen where you're like, how does he even do that? And and he just makes players around him so much better. And I think that's what makes him such a special player. He makes plays that, and it's just, he's an incredible player. And and it's so special to watch on your own team every night.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a great question here. Were you Ryan Whitney's defense partner at one point, or play with him?
Yes,
Okay.
in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay, so
In the
Chris
American League.
Anderson asks, being that he played at BU and played for Wilkes-Barre, let's hear a good Ryan Whitney story or two. I believe they were depart pairs for a bit. Second, has the way you look at a player's character changed over the last 10 years? Are there character standards that you look for? So
I'll answer that one first. The character standards. Yeah, I mean, no, you obviously want high character guys, and I don't think the standards necessarily have changed, but I do think sometimes you need characters, which maybe they're not as high a character as somebody, but they're a little edgy, they're a little grumpy, they're, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're probably a good person.
Right.
So I think that's, you want to have all good guys and good teammates and all that, but I think sometimes you need a little edge in there. But at the end of the day, character, you got to have good people, I believe in.
Yeah.
Ryan Whitney stories, I probably could have a million. It's just to think of one right now might be hard. But he is hilarious. I mean, what you see on Spittin' Chicklets and all the stuff he does, he is a funny person. I still am in touch with him today. And, we were roommates actually on the road. And he's just he's a great guy, a funny guy. I think so we were in the play. So I do actually have a story I can remember. And it's kind of funny, interesting, whatever. We were playing the playoffs one year and we were staying down in Philadelphia when they had the old Phantoms there. And, so we checked into the hotel and I think they put us in room 911. Right. So he's like, I'm not going to go in that room. So he's standing at the door, right? He won't step in the room. And I'm like, well, what's the big deal? Why don't you he said, I'm not coming in that room. And he goes, I just got in an argument with the lady downstairs at the front desk. He's like, can you go down and change it? I said, I'm not going to change it because I don't really care. And he's like, come on, please. And I'm like, okay, I'll go, whatever. And he's like, all right, I'll give you $20. I said, no, not enough. And he's like, I'll give you $40. I said, no. And then he's like, all right, $60. I said, no, I don't really care. And he's like, $100. I'm like, give me the keys. I'll go do it. So we changed rooms. So he's a funny guy. He's I've known him for a long time and, he's still a good friend. So.
That's great. Last one for you, Chris, trade deadline's coming up March 6th. Trade freeze ends at, on Sunday after the gold medal game, technically 10:59 p.m. Central Time. So essentially when we wake up on the 23rd to go home.
Yeah.
First of all, has there been a lot of trade talk here? I mean, I like what we talked about early in the show, there's not a lot for you guys to do. So I'm sure you're spitballing. We know there's 10 GMs here between Canada and US. How much work have you guys done in preparation for the trade deadline? And could we see anything coming up right away?
Yeah, I wouldn't think anything right away. But yeah, there's definitely been conversations here and chatter and talk. But I think everybody's kind of focused on the job at hand here. But I do think there's been some talk, but I don't think anything will happen, Monday. I'd be very surprised if, any of the GMs who are here, did anything on Monday. Because like I said, I think a lot of them are focused on the task here and, they'll have plenty of time when they get back and on Monday and, but I do think, for as far as we go, yeah, we obviously are looking to add and, try to make us better if we can, if the deal makes sense. Right. So,
last one for you on this, like how tough is it? And just so people know also, we can't talk about players. Like I don't want to get Chris in trouble, because that would technically be tampering. He's not allowed to talk about players. But how tough is it when you're sort of in this mode where we know you're in win now mode. You made this incredible trade for Quinn Hughes. So you probably see the ability of a window here. But you also know that you've traded a lot of assets in the last couple of years, so it's got to be the right move. And maybe you got to show a little patience, and maybe that right move comes this summer because you'd hate to use what assets you have left now, and then all of a sudden a huge piece comes available this summer. So how hard is that to weigh right now?
Yeah, it's hard, but I think you know, we'll make that decision if the right deal comes along before the deadline. We'll know. And if it doesn't, then you're right. Maybe it is a summer thing. Maybe it's the perfect guy in the summer, like last summer in the UFA, where we didn't get a whole lot done, or we didn't get the big guy or whatever. And then Quinn Hughes comes along and we made the move, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, you're hoping to add before the deadline and make your team better and give them a better chance. But we won't do it just to do it. It has to make sense for us too, because we have given up a lot of picks and young guys, and but we feel we've done it to make our team better. So, if that right player comes along, we'll do what we can to make our team better.
Well, Chris, really, really appreciate your time here. I told you a half hour. I think I've kept it close to 40.
That's all right.
Yeah. Plus the 5 or 10 minutes that I was having trouble getting online. So, so really appreciate it. It's really been an exciting tournament to cover, you guys. I can't imagine when you spend, a couple of years getting ready for this tournament, what it's like now, from a nerve standpoint, to know that you're potentially 2 wins from putting a gold medal over your neck. So, really good luck against in the semifinals against Slovakia. Hopefully we are covering you in the gold medal game, and, send my best to Billy and tell him I'll be in touch.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. And, it's an exciting time. It's very nerve wracking. Like, I don't know how Billy Zito has done it the last 3 years in the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah. I'm like game 7s and he's just, but he's Ted. It's the same. The ups and downs, you can't control it. Like, there's no way. I mean, you wouldn't be in the game if you just were like, oh yeah, this is fine. Like, and Billy doesn't get a lot of stress and nerves, like, because he can't do much during the game. Billy Guerin. Yeah. But this is his team that he put together, and same with the Wild. Like, there is times where you can't help but be stressed or be nervous, or, whether it's a playoff game or the quarterfinals of the Olympics, or, hopefully bigger games coming up in the next few days. So it's just human nature, and it's part of being in the game. Yeah. And being where we are. So.
I'm convinced that Bill Zito only wears a toque to hide, to absorb all the sweat that he does have during the
Yeah, probably. I know.
That's pretty funny. Well, Chris, thanks a lot. That is Chris Kelleher, the longtime assistant GM of the Minnesota Wild and director of player personnel for this USA hockey team, trying to win its first gold medal in 46 years. Thanks a lot, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
If you're like me, your New Year's resolutions are already fading away. But I'll tell you one thing that will not fade ever, and that is the reliability and quality of a Connecticut water treatment system. Here's why I love mine: the no electricity, my soft water, my great tasting water, and of course my great tasting coffee, and the confidence of knowing how clean the water actually is. I've had a Connecticut water treatment system for years, and every year Aquarius comes out, they test my water, they change my filters, they do absolutely everything. When it comes to my water softener system, they do the full thorough cleaning, they put in new salt, even leave a bunch of bags of salt. It's pretty cool. My end result is worry-free water. Schedule your free water test today at AquariusHomeservices.com and save up to 25%. Yes, that's 25%. Plus, they offer great interest-free financing programs. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. That's why I've done it for years on this podcast. And tell them that Russo sent you. Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today. Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta is off this week. Thanks to Chris Kelleher. As you can tell, what a great dude. And I mean it. You don't root in this job, but I will say this: I am rooting for a United States gold medal game because I just think it would be awesome to cover. And I will say, up until yesterday, this was not a very compelling tournament. There were very few games, no comebacks, almost no upsets, unless you include Slovakia beating Finland early, which I don't really consider a huge upset. And it really genuinely boring. Like the most compelling part of this entire tournament was Sweden bizarrely pulling its goalie up 2 goals in the one game. So I don't really, let's put it this way. Us going to the rink yesterday, we were praying for some really good games. And then the first game of the day was brutal. So then you're just like, what is going on here? But then the last 3 games yesterday, epic. Finland rallies back from 2 goals down with 6 minutes to go to wind up beating Switzerland in overtime. Canada has to rally back from a 3-2 deficit in the third period. They lose Sidney Crosby. They tie the game. Then Suzuki winds up tying the game there at the end of the third period. And then they go into overtime for the Mitch Marner game-winning goal. And then obviously what happened to the U.S. yesterday, clinging to a 1-0 lead. Mika Zibanejad forces overtime with the net empty, an extra attacker on. And then obviously Quinn Hughes from Matt Boldy wins it. So 3 incredible games yesterday, and hopefully we get some really, really good games coming up here. On the podcast last week, I joked around about Vincent Trocheck and how he tried to join the Minnesota Wild team picture to start the Olympics. I still think he makes the most sense for the Wild. But I also see from a Chris Drury perspective where you're not going to just pull this trigger right away. You're going to see if you can up the ante. There are teams out there that right now need centers. So you're not just going to immediately pounce on just a trade. But I do think that there's a potential of Vincent Trocheck being here at the end of the day. But we'll be interested to see what happens as we get closer to that March 6th deadline. As Chris Kelleher just told us, he doesn't expect that there's going to be a trade right on the Monday after the trade freeze is lifted. Again, the Wild have, 6 or 7 games before the trade deadline, so we'll see where it goes. They've got to make the right move because they've traded a ton of assets here. I can't imagine they want to trade Danila Yurov, but Charlie Stramel is certainly going to be somebody that's going to be asked about. And some of their other top prospects. They also don't have a 2026 first-round pick as of now. Potentially they move a player to try to get a 26 first-round pick, but they like their team. But you're still going to have to play Colorado or Dallas in the first round, or, if you don't win the conference. If they win the conference and they're only 5 points back of Colorado now, Colorado does have a couple games in hand, then all of a sudden it changes everything. And now you're the team that's playing the bottom wildcard team and things like that. Let me answer a couple questions from X. Paul Anderson, who everybody knows is the hype guy at the end of Wild Games, asked, "How's the ground transportation in Milan?" It's actually been really good. We have a transport app here where essentially anything's covered. So today when I go to the Olympic Village, I'll essentially go to the train station, take a couple trains. It's free. Same thing with the buses. After games, I will say we leave so late, like 2, 3 a.m., that the transportation is closed. So we've been spending a bunch of money on Ubers and things like that. But it's been really, really good here. Mark Lesh asks, are the neck guards that most of the Team USA players are wearing just the bare minimum to meet Olympics requirements? I haven't noticed other teams with that style. So everybody has to wear a neck guard here. The one cool thing about the USA ones is they say Team USA and they're bright blue, so they were easily discernible if you're watching on TV. I think they look awesome. I think the biggest question I have is, do some of these stars here, and there's 150 NHLers in the Olympics that from the start of the tournament, obviously a lot of teams have been eliminated. Do some of them go back and wear them in the NHL? Have they gotten used to them where they just say, you know what, it's not affecting me. I don't even know it's there. I'm going to start wearing them in the National Hockey League and protect myself even further. So that's one of the biggest things that I wonder. Amy Davis asks, any chance we could get Jack Hughes or Brady Tkachuk, or is that pure delusion? I think right now it's definitely pure delusion. The New Jersey Devils want to make a hockey trade, but I don't see right now that they are going to touch their core. Tom Fitzgerald believes in that core. That includes Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, and players like that, Jesper Bratt. Could I see him trading a Dawson Mercer or something like that? Absolutely. But I don't see them trading Jack Hughes anytime soon. In terms of Brady Tkachuk, he's got a couple years until his contract is up. He's got the same agent actually, I'm wrong on that. I don't think he does have the same agent. But either way, I was going to say Quinn Hughes. But I just think that Brady, if he was ever going to leave Ottawa, probably wants to unite himself with his brother down in Florida. Now, whether or not they can afford him at that point, who knows? Obviously, I wrote the story the other day about how close he is with Quinn Hughes. We know the absolute affinity that Bill Guerin and staff have for Brady. If Brady was ever going to be somebody that would have forced his way out of Ottawa or not re-sign in Ottawa, there is zero doubt in my mind the Wild would try to get in on that. But right now, I don't see it. But when I say that you don't want to give up major assets right now and regret it later, he's the one that's really in my head here, because I just have this feeling he's not going to re-sign in Ottawa. That's just my own gut feeling. Somebody asked if Billy Guerin had any words of encouragement for Gustafsson during the Olympics, or will he need any after returning? We just asked Chris Kelleher that question, and I don't think they're worried about him and think that he'll get his game back together. Obviously, in a short tournament, he wasn't very clean here. There's no doubt about it. Forgot to ask Minnesota. Johan wanted me to ask Chris Kelleher if he believes in jinxes. That's a shot at or a joke aimed at Anthony LaPanta, so that's pretty funny. Tony Rossini asks, would you rather have Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar when starting a franchise? That's a tough call. I mean, these are two great players, different players, but two incredibly good players. I mean, it is fun watching Cale Makar. He's like a thoroughbred from the blue line. Different player than Quinn, but you can't go wrong with either of those guys. So let's see. Jason of the North says, can you please discuss if Team USA should team up Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber? Also, thank you for the great job you and Anthony do during this podcast to keep us entertained. Thank you very much. You know what? We've talked about this on this podcast. I mean, Quinn Hughes and Charlie McAvoy, I thought they were sensational yesterday. And Charlie is basically like a clone of Brock Faber. So I think this made a lot of sense. And one big reason, and this had to do with John Hines, is John's running the penalty kill here. That's 10 for 10. And because Jacob Slavin and Brock Faber were going to be a pair on the PK because Quinn Hughes doesn't play penalty kill, they just thought it would be easier to have Charlie with Quinn, and then you keep Faber with the guy that's that's playing PK with the guy that he's paired with at even strength. And so far, it's worked out outstanding. I think Brock's had a great tournament. Really fun and cool. Mitch asked me how's my liver? Have there been fun gatherings after each night? I will say there really hasn't been. I've had 2 dinners out since I've been at the Olympics, and they were both before the Olympics. We leave so late. There's hockey every single day that we have not been able to do that. The gatherings, when we get back to the hotel, a lot of us there's many athletic writers and editors staying at this hotel. So we have been hanging out in the lobby and things like that. It's probably not the healthiest lifestyle, drinking wine and ordering pizza, but it's been it's been really a fun time for me covering these Olympics. I can't tell you what it's like to be part of this team at The Athletic and the New York Times. So we have so many writers here and up in the mountains and things like that. And when you're working with the Marcus Thompsons and the Britt Gurolis and Steve Buckleys and people like that, it just inspires you to try to do a better job. And then from the hockey team standpoint, how Haley Salvian and Mark Lazarus, who's a machine, Arpon Basu and Pierre LeBrun, and our incredible editors from Oscar Garcia to Nyoko, who is our head editor in the hockey vertical of The Athletic. It's just been an incredible time here, and it's just been awesome to cover this thing. An honor to be one of the people chosen to cover it. And like I said, when you're working with these fine sports writers, it just really makes you want to do a better job than I've been doing. I still feel like the weakest link on our staff, but I'm always deprecating like that because when I read other writers like Marcus Thompson and Mark Lazarus and people like that, I just envy the way that they write. I'm sort of meat and potatoes. I love telling good stories, good features and things like that, but I couldn't write my way out of a box, frankly. I think that's the show. This has been a fun one. Thanks to Chris Kelleher, the Wild Assistant General Manager and Director of Player Personnel for USA Hockey. I thought a really fun, interesting interview to get his perspective on this tournament, and also the Minnesota Wild heading into the trade deadline. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that. Thanks to our incredible sponsors, Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment Treatment Systems, Onyx Maps, and Royal Credit Union. Talk to you next week, everybody, with Anthony LaPanta. Anthony, I am not on the next wild road trip, but I get back Tuesday from Milan, and Anthony leaves Wednesday for Denver. So Wednesday morning, Anthony and I will try to do a podcast before he takes off for that 2-game road trip to Denver and Utah. Talk to you next week, everybody.
So much coming, there's nothing